I was not going to tell this story on any place other than Twitter until now because I did not want to accidentally scare someone out of getting the COVID vaccine. So I waited until I was, certain, at least most people in the United States, that were going to ever get their vaccine have probably gotten it at this point. Those that haven't gotten it at this point probably never will. People that are going to get their vaccine that haven't gotten it yet are definitely in a minority, at least in this country. So I feel like it's a bit safer to, tell this story at this point. It was March of 2021. The vaccine rollout happened for, at the very least, people that were the most at risk for, COVID. I was considered an essential worker March of 2021. Vaccines, even in the United States at that point, were kind of hard to get because appointments just kept disappearing just as quickly as they were open. I eventually snagged an appointment kind of far away from me because the closer you get to Chicago, the harder it was to get a vaccine appointment for obvious reasons. But I snagged a vaccine appointment a bit outside of the suburbs. And so that was, quite a drive for sure. But I needed to get my vaccine, man. I dealt with the public every day. I did not want to risk it. I did my drive through a town that had a shit ton of Blue Lives Matters flags in the town square. I did not feel comfortable, but I got my vaccine. I go into the Walgreens not that scared because I'm not afraid of, needles. I think the concept of one taking my bodily fluids and or putting fluids straight into my bloodstream, I find that concept a bit uncomfortable, a bit weird, not my favorite, but I'm not afraid of it. I can deal with it. I get a blood test at least once a year. I had to get over it at one point. So I'm not too nervous. I know that people, have some questionable reactions to the COVID vaccine, but it mostly comes in like a flu. Like you just get a bad head cold or a flu for a day or two and you get a little sore in your arm, which is whatever, I'll survive. This is worth it. So it's important to note that I am alone getting my COVID vaccine because I'm an adult. I can't just ask my mom to come with me. She's a working woman. I had to ask off to do this. But I'm not, super worried. I'm like, oh, it's just going to be a vaccine. I'll be fine. Whatever. So, I go through the motions and I get my vaccine. The worst part about vaccines is if you can feel it running through your body. That is the worst part of the vaccine, I think. It's that sensation that I don't like, is feeling it go through your body. Disgusting. I hate it. And I feel it. It's going in my bloodstream. I feel that shit. I sit down in the chair because you're supposed to wait 10 to 15 minutes before you get your I got vaccinated card. And for the first 60 seconds, nothing. And then all of a sudden I start to get a little hot. I start shaking. I'm shaking like a leaf at this point. My body is overheating. I now have sweat dripping down my face. I'm talking there were drops coming off of my face. At this point, now I'm freaking out because I don't want to get nerfed by God in the middle of a Walgreens stationed in a Blue Lives Matter town. Not really my favorite way to go. I'd prefer something a bit different. At this point, my vision starts getting blurry, and I'm very much freaking out. I have taken off my mask at this point because I can't breathe. My breathing is very labored, and I am consciously trying to get as much air in as possible while I'm sitting stationary and shaking like a leaf at the same time. I have come to the conclusion that I might die. And I just accepted it. At this point, my vision is pretty much gone. I can't see shit. The sweat is just falling off of me still. There are just rivers just falling off of my face. I am still shaking. I can't do anything. I'm just stuck there. And then my ears start ringing. And I start to lose hearing as well. And I don't lose it completely, but it's almost like the sounds that I'm taking in were filtered through water. That's sort of how it felt like. It felt like there were cotton in my ears, or that, I was underwater hearing things. So now I have lost two of my very important senses, and I am still sweating, still shaking. This lasts for about 15 minutes. I walk up just the best I can to the doctor, and I'm like, is this normal? And she does the normal doctor thing where she goes, yeah, you're probably just having a panic attack. You're probably just anxious. So you know what doctors do, gaslight you. And I go, no, that's not what happened. But thanks. It felt like I sped run COVID within a 15-minute period. And what's different from how I reacted to how other people reacted was that when I went home, like, I didn't feel fantastic, but it wasn't like I had a head cold or flu. I was pretty much okay the rest of the day. I was just a little bit, like, dizzy, I guess. But that also went away, and I took a nap and drank some water, and I was, like, completely fine. Even the ache in my arm wasn't really as bad as people were saying it was. So I sped run each and every of the side effects of the vaccine over a 15-minute period of time. It was terrible. And this is not the end of the story, because the COVID vaccine comes in 2 doses. I have to suck it up and get the second dose after all of that. I feel like it is important to note that I got Moderna rather than Pfizer. And I get Moderna again for my second dose because I don't think they would let me get anything else. I don't think they would let me get Pfizer even if I asked. So I suck it up, and a few months later, however long it was, I get my second COVID dose. This time I bring a friend to be witness, just in case I fucking die. And mind you, that first time, I drove home. I drove home 40 minutes. My mom was like, why did you do that? And I was like, were you going to come pick me up? Were you going to drive 40 minutes in the middle of your workday and come pick me up? Were you going to do that, Mom? No, you weren't? Yeah, exactly. So I drove home. My friend was like, I'm not going to let you do that this time because that was fucking stupid. And I was like, yeah, but I had no other choice. So, much more fear in my heart. I go to the same redneck town in Illinois. I go to the same Walgreens where I almost got nerfed by God. And I'm understandably nervous because if the first dose made me react like that, what's the second dose gonna do? And I tried to remain positive. We both, she was like, it's gonna be good this time. Maybe that was, just your body getting used to it. Now you're used to it and it won't react like that this time. So with my friend as my witness, I get my second COVID dose. She's sitting next to me in a chair. I last about 2 minutes, and I stupidly say in those 2 minutes, wow, at this point, I was halfway dead. Maybe this will be good. No, it wasn't. All of a sudden, I get dizzy and my vision goes out again. And I just turn to her, wherever I think she is, and I go, it's happening again. And I didn't really get to see the look on her face as I start shaking like a leaf. My hearing goes again. It's once again sounds like everything is underwater. Basically, the same thing happens where I feel like I'm being nerfed by God. This is it. I'm gonna fucking die in the middle of a Walgreens. And then the feeling. Now, it's also important to note that when I was a child, I had emetophobia, which means I was deeply afraid of vomiting. I don't have that anymore. I've somehow gotten over it, like most of my other fears when I was a child and an absolute pussy. But it is important to note that I still don't enjoy throwing up. Some residual feelings of panic settle inside me as I'm not only being nerfed by God, but now I feel nauseous. I feel like I'm about to throw up. And by golly, do I. I throw up all over the Walgreens floor. What was I gonna do? Get up when my legs are made of pool noodles? There wasn't a trash can near me. It's just me and the Walgreens floor. So after vomiting all over the Walgreens floor, the same doctor that gaslighted me, essentially, the first time I had this terrible reaction, was like, oh, you were telling the truth. And I was like, yeah, I fucking was. And after a poor Walgreens worker cleaned up, and I felt terrible about it, I got some water from the nurses who commented that I looked like I was dead. In a nicer way, of course. I was very, very pale. And my friend, who I asked to go get me or something, like a tissue, anything, and I expected her to go to the bathroom and get me a hand towel, and homegirl bought me, like, tissues at the Walgreens. I was like, you didn't need to do that. You're great, but you didn't need to do that. Honestly, she was just shaken up and felt terrible. But I have a witness. I have a witness of the universe trying to kill me and failing. After I walk up and get my COVID card, which now has the second dose on it as well, after I'm done sweating through my shirt, the doctor has the gall to make the joke that I'm gaining color back in my face. And I was like, yeah, I'm gaining color back in my face, absolutely. And this time I didn't drive home, obviously. My friend did it, so she was right that it was probably best that she chaperoned me to my judgment day. Afterwards, I felt a little bit worse than I did the first time, but once again, it was not like everybody else. I know my mom felt like she had the flu for a couple of days. It wasn't like that. It was just a little achy and a little bit tired. So fast forward, I get my booster shot eventually. This time I specifically ask for Pfizer because I did not want to be dead in the middle of a Walgreens. They allow me, thank fucking God, to get Pfizer. Lo and fucking behold, nothing happened. I've never been so terrified in my adult life to get a vaccine when I went in there, because I was like, I don't want it to happen again. I know I'm doing this for a good reason, but I can't have this happen again, man. I can't vomit all over the Walgreens floor. And it didn't happen. Pfizer did not try to assassinate me. It was Moderna the whole time. So rest assured, when I got my second booster shot, I also got Pfizer. Long story short, Moderna tried to assassinate me in the middle of a Walgreens. If there's a moral to this story, if I can go back and get a second Moderna shot after being almost murdered, then I think you can go get one COVID vaccine. And that was the story of how I vomited on the Walgreens floor. Have a wonderful day.